Hey everybody, thanks for joining. We're going to be looking at the 29th Sunday in Ordinary Time. And as always, you can check down the description below for a link to the readings. Let's get started. So what's happening in this first reading? We have this main figure, Cyrus, a king of Persia who's able to help the Jewish people be free of their Babylonian exile and their Babylonian captivity. He's able to give the Jewish people their freedom, even though he himself did not know the Jewish God. Isaiah emphasizes this twice. He did not know who God was, right? But that does not mean that God cannot use him as a tool for his divine plan. So if you ever heard the phrase, God works in mysterious ways, this for sure is one of those instances where, as we're following along the story of the people of Israel, God's chosen people, we're watching how God's plan is a far greater story that even people that aren't specifically Jewish, as we're going through the scriptures, they too, because everybody is a part of God's plan, even in ways that we might never understand. Let's take a look at Paul's letter to the Thessalonians. Thessalonians 1 is a very short letter, along with 2, but for this weekend, we're looking at 1 Thessalonians. And we get the very beginning of it. We have Paul's greeting, and then we get some very encouraging words. Really, at the end point, when Paul talks about not only was the word given to them, but he can see that they are filled with the Holy Spirit, the power of the Holy Spirit, and they are filled with conviction, right, to be disciples. Unlike some instances in some of the other letters that we hopefully will talk about when we talk about Paul's letters to the different communities, he's very happy with what's going on in this community, right? And that's because he knows that not only have they received the word, they've received the preaching, they've received the kerygma, the proclamation of Jesus Christ, and they've interiorized it. And because of that, they are now living as a community as faithful disciples. And this is exactly what Paul has been wanting to see from the communities. And so he even goes further down in the letter. We don't get to hear it, but if you keep on reading in the letter, Timothy sends a really good report back to Paul and saying there's good things happening in this community. And Paul's emphasis in the snippet that we get this weekend is that it's because they are living with the inspiration and the power of the Holy Spirit. And hopefully, as we get into the gospel, we're going to look at how it's not just the letter of the law that the Pharisees, Sadducees, Herodians are going to try to trip Jesus up on. It's the fact that Jesus is trying to show them the spirit of the law, and that's his love. So let's take a look at the Gospels. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's. I think Jesus, again, shows his genius to us in a very simple way, but a very impactful way. Under the backdrop of the geopolitics at the time, Jesus is able to give such an important teaching on how we prioritize, right? And really, he's trying to tell the people that they need to focus on what's actually important, their right relationship with God. And they are what belong to God, right? The Pharisees are trying to catch him. They're trying to find ways that they can still be seen good in the public eye while at the same time getting rid of Jesus. If Jesus says that they should pay taxes because this Caesar's head is on the coin and they should give this money back to the Romans, right? Then they can catch him on multiple levels. One level being that a large majority of the Jewish people do not like the Roman occupation, so he's not going to find favor with that group. But also, they could even stretch it a little bit further and say that there's a level of blasphemy because the Roman emperors were seen as semi-divine. The next level, right? If Jesus says, don't pay your taxes, do not give to this semi-divine figure, right? You need to only give back to the one true God. Then they can also catch him because now he's just saying quote unquote blasphemous things against the Roman emperor who is in charge of all of them because of their occupation, and they can arrest him uh, and they can finally get rid of him. Here, Jesus gives them the strong teaching on prioritization. Pay your taxes, because really at the end of the day, that's not relevant to your salvation. Your right relationship to God is. One is going to come and go, just like all uh, political regimes, all people in power, they all come and go. God's eternity of love and salvation, that's going to last forever. So if you're going to prioritize, you probably want to prioritize in a way that is looking at your eternity and not in just what's happening right now. We have to find a fine line which Jesus walks about how you deal with both. And I think that this teaching about the coin, to give to Caesar what is Caesar's and to God what is God's, is a great way to understand, yes, there are things that are happening right now that we have to prioritize, but above all, we have to prioritize our relationship with God. Thanks so much for watching. As always, you can head over to stedward.org to find out all the things that are happening here at the church. If I don't see you Sunday, I'll see you soon.